Hey guys, how you all doing today out there? I still want to say it. This here, someone sent this to me, okay? And it's called Codename Tricycle. Dusko, Dusko Popov, Siberian Playboy, Spy, Double Agent, and real life James Bond. That sounds quite intriguing there, doesn't it? But this one is kind of long, so I'm going to do it in two parts. This is going to be part one, and I'll record part two put it up another time for you all to take. But I'm quite excited to see this. Before we go though, I found this new software editing program, and they have the capability to do subtitles, and one of it is in Romanian. And I think there's also Serbian in there too. Uh, but well, I'll check it out as I go. So hopefully I could get that because somebody has said that they have a hard time understanding me and I should put subtitles on it because I have this Caribbean accent here. So we're going to try to use that. And I want you guys in the comment section to tell me, since I'm not able to read Serbian or Romanian, uh, if that works in there. Okay, so it's going to be there's going to be built-in Serbian subtitles in here. Tell me. So I could decide if I'm going to keep using it or not. Yeah, so I'm say, let's go ahead and YouTube and simmer and see what this real life James Bond is all about.
He supplied vital intelligence to the Allies about Hitler's flying bombs. And he almost succeeded in preventing the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. This is a high-stakes story of deceit and delusion.
Ooh.
A tale of personal excess in the bar, the casino, and the bedroom. This is the true story of Dusko Popov, whose actions influenced the outcome of the Second World War. For that, he will be lauded as one of the most important players in the history of the Secret War.
Man, sounds like a movie there. I feel like I'm in a movie theater or something.
Dushko Popov grew up in one of Europe's most beautiful cities, Dubrovnik, in Croatia, then part of Yugoslavia.
You know, I'm going to cut it here now. It's just what I'm about, the story I'm about to tell you has nothing to really do with this year, but I think it's a pretty funny story. As a kid in the Caribbean, when we in school, we had to learn to spell every single country's name and stuff like that. And I remember they going around the class and asking people to spell the name of our country. And guess what Mr. Giant or little Mr. Giant got? Yugoslavia. And I had to spell Yugoslavia. I got it right. But the thing about going to school there is how they would teach you to spell when you was I wasn't in secondary school, I was in primary school. They go around the class and say, spell Russia, spell Uganda, spell Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. You know what I mean? And if you spell it wrong, you get a whipping. I got Yugoslavia, but I was a good speller. So I spelled it right. I just thought I'll splash that, because some people telling me that when I'm watching this, well, one person was saying, you will never understand the Serbian history and stuff. I may not, but when I was a kid in school, they made us inquisitive about other people's history and culture. So I said that just to say that. Let's get back to the story real quick here.
He had a privileged upbringing. He had wealthy, well-connected parents. Dushko wanted for nothing and was a popular boy, having many friends and great self-confidence. His rich father insisted Dushko attend the finest European schools. After leaving school, his passions were fast cars and fast women. But he'd also been a star pupil and had become fluent in Italian, German, and French. At 24, he ended up in Freiburg, Germany, to study for a PhD in law. It was here that he met a young man from Hamburg, Johann Jebsen. Popov called him Johnny. It was the beginning of a friendship that would lead them both down roads they could never have dreamed of. 1936 was a strange time to be a student in Germany. In the streets, swastikas were multiplying, and so was the hatred towards Jews. In Freiburg, the liberal Popov was outraged by the public harassment of Jews by the Nazis.
I'm going to stop it here for a minute and I'm going to say this here. And I'm not like likening anything to anything because people seem to get upset if you liken stuff to some parts of history. But just looking at the social aspect of it, how society is a thing, how they pick out a certain group of people to demonize, which will propel atrocities and stuff to happen. And in a strange kind of way, but not in the same extent or hopefully further as it was then, I think the new is immigration here in this place. Because a lot of people here, man, just this morning I was at the bus station and the bus driver was complaining about immigrants. To an immigrant. Telling me that as an immigrant I get free stuff. I was like, what free stuff? I don't even have health insurance. What are you talking about? I'm just like the rest of y'all, struggling to make ends meet and struggling to pay for insurance so you have health care. Luckily, I'm really healthy, so I haven't gotten sick yet, as old as I am. But the rhetoric coming from those above everybody else is creating this festering sort of hatred for certain groups of people. And if not checked, it could escalate vis-a-vis this situation here. And like I said, I'm not saying what is happening now is like that, but it's the mentality that's being permeated through the people. And they're already on edge, and they're looking for somebody to blame for what's happening anyway, instead of directing the blame to where it should be. Things like this happen. And if you go through history, you'll see things like this happen. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I can, trying to explain it. Because what we may see happen, or what we could see happen, is a repeating of history, where a certain group of people will be so villainized that people are going to do crazy stuff to them. Because I've had people call me the dirty immigrant. Hence, the book that I wrote that's on Amazon is called Dirty Immigrant. I'm just talking to certain people as we speak now, today, You could just tell, you know what I mean? And I explained certain things about immigration to the gentleman, and I could tell he didn't believe me because you're an immigrant. I'm telling you what you get and what you have. That's the kind of things that happen that build up to the atrocities that we see happening. Instead of people checking themselves and going, oh, wait a minute, this is another human being. He ain't, I've never been involved with the law here. I've never done anything to anybody here but just live and work, just like them. Let's get back to them.
Popov and Jebsen often defied Nazi rules and drank coffee in Jewish-owned cafes. But the day after he obtained his PhD, he was betrayed and arrested by the Gestapo.
Wow.
Jebsen alerted Dushko's father, who made use of his contacts in the Yugoslav government. The Nazis released Popov, but he was ordered to leave Germany. He got out just in time.
Am 1. September 1939 erklärt der Führer im Reichstag.
Polen hat heute Nacht zum ersten Mal auf unserem eigenen Territorium auch mit bereits regulären Soldaten geschossen. Seit 5:45 Uhr wird jetzt zurückgeschossen.
In September 1939, Germany invaded Poland. Two days later, Britain declared war on Germany. If Hitler was to confront Britain, he would need information about this new enemy. He turned to his intelligence gathering organization, the Abwehr. They already had a small network of secret agents in Europe, but they needed more and began a recruitment drive. It would lead them to Dusko Popov. In 1940, Popov was running a small private law firm back in Dubrovnik, in neutral Yugoslavia. On the 4th of February, he received a telegram from his old friend Johnny Jebsen, asking if they could meet urgently in Belgrade. They met in a hotel where Johnny revealed that he had joined the Abwehr. Popov was shocked, but then incredulous when Jebsen asked him to join and become a spy for the Nazis. Popov spent the longest night of his life thinking about the strange offer from his old friend. He was surprised, but somehow excited. Jebsen was suggesting that they become double agents, working for the Nazis while secretly undermining them. He knew that if he was caught, he would pay with his life. He later wrote,
"No use going over the same ground 50 times. Facts don't change, but there was one piece missing to complete the game. Would the British play?" So the next morning, he went to the British Embassy in Belgrade and offered them his services. They sent him to the British Passport Office, which was in reality the headquarters for British military intelligence, MI6. MI6 spent 2 days vetting Popov and then accepted his offer.
Wow.
He called Johnny Jebsen and told him he was ready to play the game.
This is crazy.
Dusko Popov, double agent, was born.
Wow.
Codename Ivan for the Germans, codename Tricycle for the British.
Oh. The British being simple, tricycle.
At his first meeting with the Abwehr, Popov lied
that he had friends in high places in England. They provided him with a cover story. He was to head up an import-export business between Yugoslavia and England. The Abwehr made Johnny Jebsen his handler. He supplied Popov with lengthy questionnaires concerning British military strength and morale. Popov gave them to MI6 for completion and then handed them back to the Abwehr. The family driver, Bozidar, had volunteered to be Popov's driver. Popov was amazed. Bozidar's laziness was legendary, and he was right to be suspicious. Popov's old friend and Abwehr handler, Johnny Jebsen, discovered that the Abwehr had recruited Bozidar to spy on Popov.
Wow.
And might soon discover his links to MI6. Dushko Popov was left with no choice. Two days later, Bozidar was found shot dead near railway warehouses in Belgrade. The police concluded that Bozidar had been killed in a bungled robbery. Popov had got away with it. Lisbon was the espionage capital of Europe during the war.
Wow.
It was a spy nest.
Did not know that.
The city was swarming with suspicious characters, deserters, conscientious objectors, refugees, and adventurers, all rubbing shoulders. But
what a time to be living, boy. You don't find that anymore, you know what I mean? Well, not that we know of, really. But you know what, though? I think, like, spies have lost some of their romanticism and thing, you know what I mean? It just doesn't seem as romantic as it used to be. I guess Hollywood made those that era of spying really romantic and stuff. But it's probably a gritty, heart-wrenching type of a endeavor to pursue, you know what I'm saying?
bars, cafes and restaurants were infested with agents of all backgrounds and origins. Although Portugal was officially neutral, the Germans had a significant presence there. So the British ensured that they too had a strong covert delegation. It was in this atmosphere that Popov was sent to Lisbon by the Abwehr in November 1940. When Dusko Popov...
You know, watching that plane and stuff like that, and I used to watch a lot of war movies when I was a kid, but when the actual invasion happened on my country, didn't sound anything like that. The sound of the planes and stuff was a lot scarier, a lot more ingrained in the soul, especially when you know why they're there and what they're doing. But I guess again, Hollywood sort of fancied it up to make it more entertaining. It's not entertaining at all when you live in it. It is not. And I guess that's a given. But, you know, watching this and I'm thinking, because, you know, as a kid watching those movies and stuff, I guess it's because you're sitting in a movie theater and you're safe. Actually, like, being awoken at night by those big planes going overhead over your house and stuff. That's a whole nother fright there. Crazy.
Arrived at Lisbon airport, his eye was taken by a pretty girl who kept winking at him. Her name was Elizabeth Sarbach, and she'd been sent to collect him. He followed her to a waiting black limousine, got in, and together they sped off. The car was driven to a large villa where a tall, aristocratic man was waiting to greet them. It was Elizabeth's boss and Popov's Abwehr controller, Ludovico von Karstoff. Real name, Ludwig Kramer von Auenroder. Popov instinctively liked von Kastov, who shared his fondness for the company of women, and took him under his wing.
I guess he was a typical bad boy, you know, espionage, war. I think women are drawn to stuff like that, you know what I mean? Even back then, they weren't up the bad boys, you know? Crazy.
But as soon as he had the chance, Dusko Popov made sure he registered with the British Passport Office, which, as in Belgrade, was the cover operation for British military intelligence, MI6. Neutral Portugal and neighbouring Spain were also safe places to meet his old friend Johnny Jebsen, whose job was to keep him informed of German progress in the war. He told Popov how the German people resented living hand to mouth while factories churned out thousands of planes and tanks, about disloyalty within the Abwehr ranks, and he revealed news of a new technology German scientists called the microdot. Popov would come to be familiar with the microdot, but in the meantime simply passed the information straight to MI6. Popov was busy building his cover as a businessman representing import-export interests in Yugoslavia when the Abwehr delivered airline tickets to his hotel. His flight left Lisbon on the 20th of December 1940 for London. Hitler's Luftwaffe were trying to bomb the British into submission. But while the Blitz was the most visible sign of the war, the Abwehr were secretly laying the foundations for occupation. And Popov was key to the strategy.
Wow.
They instructed him to find out if there were influential Nazi sympathizers in Britain who they could use to support an invasion. Popov realized that this was the opportunity he'd been waiting for. He would look the British in the eye and tell them how he could help them win the war.
Yeah, that's brave.
As he was driven into the capital on the 20th of December 1940, Popov was confronted for the first time with the horrors of war. As he watched the city burn and the people bury their dead, it only reinforced his commitment to the cause. He wrote,
"If I had any doubts, moral or ethical, about what I was doing, they vanished when I experienced the Blitz at first hand and how the British were standing up to it."
His car pulled up at the Savoy Hotel on the Strand, where he was greeted by a smartly dressed man. It would be this man's job to vet Popov and report whether he could be trusted. MI6 in Lisbon and Belgrade had already briefed Robertson and the Double Cross Committee about Popov. Even so, there were many on the committee who didn't trust him. He could be working for the Germans. The committee were not prepared to take any chances. Popov had passed his first test. Tar Robertson knew that he had the potential to become the Double Cross Committee's most valuable agent. He had neutral nationality, could travel freely all over Europe, and had the trust of the Abwehr. He threw himself body and soul into working with the British. In turn, they trained him in the arts of spycraft, such as the use of invisible ink, tips and tricks on breaking and entering, and the use of evasion techniques to avoid being followed. He had to absorb enormous amounts of information and equally enormous amounts of disinformation.
I tell you what, watching this, you're thinking, Because you think of Hollywood movies and stuff like that. Is it art imitating history? Because this is kind of like a movie we're watching here, you know what I mean? But it's real life, This guy was out there doing this stuff. And a lot of the phrases and stuff you're hearing became everyday lingo because of Hollywood. You know what I mean? The only difference I think is Hollywood can take, what do they call it? Creative. God, I forgot what they call it. Comment down below. Tell me what that is. I can't remember what they call it. Creative liberties, I think, just to spruce up the storyline to make it more romantic, because this doesn't seem romantic yet. It just seems like some really scary stuff, and you have to be like a really brave person to do that. No wonder why he was all there running around, with all types of women and stuff. That's just to relieve the tension, what I mean, from being a spy.
His job would be to provide the Germans with bogus intelligence about British military strength and planning. On New Year's Eve 1940, Popov was invited to a society party given at the home of Major General Stuart Mingus, the head of MI6, known as C. There, he was introduced to the cabaret artist, Friedel Gardner. She was the most beautiful woman he'd seen since arriving in England. But as their conversation got interesting, Mingus interrupted and asked Popov to his study. Mingus told him in no uncertain terms that he didn't like him. But he had the makings of a very good spy. But had better learn to take orders, or he'd become a very dead spy.
Wow.
Popov left the party contemplating Mingus' words, but dreaming about Friedel Gardner's eyes. He would meet her again very soon. Popov was almost ready to return to Portugal. But first he was introduced to Lieutenant Commander Ewan Montague. It was his job to assemble a cover story that would convince the Germans that Popov had used his time in England well. Montague made sure Popov met several military officers and high-ranking civil servants that would show the Abwehr he was plugged into the highest quality sources. To enhance his credibility still further, he gave him the names of 3 lords whom the British already knew were sympathetic to the Nazis. Then on the 2nd of January 1941, he boarded a KLM flight back to Lisbon.
What? Lords that was sympathetic to the Nazis? No, you know there was, but this is the first time I've actually heard somebody verbalize it. That's crazy to think, you know what I mean? They were like higher ups in England. They were sympathetic to the Nazis and working against England. After watching the city get blitzed and stuff like that, that's your people. How could you? All because of probably some ideological belief or something, you know what I'm saying? That's just crazy.
It was the beginning of the deadliest of spy games.
Ooh.
Back in Lisbon, he met von Karstov's assistant, Elizabeth, at the Hotel Palacio. He checked in, dressed for dinner, then made his way to the casino, and in particular, the roulette table. There he waited for Elizabeth to play 3 numbers. The numbers revealed the date and the time of his next meeting with von Karstov.
Wow, so that's where the gambling came in. They were using it to communicate.
At that meeting, von Karstov questioned Popov thoroughly about his trip to England. He told him about his high-level political contacts. and began supplying false information such as bogus details of a new RAF attack aircraft called the Beaufighter. Popov worked the Lisbon-London route immaculately for 2 months. The Abwehr were keen to know as much as possible about the Beaufighter. Equally, he was able to pass to them more and more fake intelligence, such as the incorrect location of British minefields. To alleviate the unquestionable stress, Popov also made sure he made time to let his hair down. When in Lisbon, he had the companionship of a shapely Brazilian blonde called Maria Helena. When in London, he was on everyone's A-list. Here's an extract from his diary from 1 week in February 1941. Evening cocktails, American bar, Savoy. Dinner at Mirabelle. Met at Mayfair Lounge. Dinner at Claridge's. Dined in an out club. His hectic social life alarmed his superiors, so they arranged for an old flame to make contact. He didn't know that Friedel Gardner was also working for MI6, but they knew this agent they called Gelatine would be perfect at keeping Dushko occupied. Popov would find her company stimulating. As he got used to the London-Lisbon routine, the casino of the Hotel Palacio became his headquarters, and it was here that the James Bond legend was born. A British agent, ordered to keep an eye on Popov, witnessed much of his behavior at the casino bar and at the baccarat table. The agent was Ian Fleming. But in March 1941, as Popov arrived yet again at the Hotel Palacio, he was instructed to report immediately to von Karstoff. Had he been discovered?
The suspense. Okay, I'm going to end this one right here. This is part 1 of this. We go into some top secret stuff here. So, I hope you guys are enjoying this, because I'm enjoying watching this here. I guess you could enjoy this part of history from a distance, because it wasn't part of all that scary stuff and things like that. But I'll leave a link in the description for this first part, and please, next part coming up, okay? You all take care of each other. Cool runnings.